This is Resolute and the Resolute Leadership Podcast. I am Vince Miller, your founder and host. And today we are in a lesson that we have entitled Continuous Learning. Welcome back to the program. If this is your first time tuning in, well, thank you for joining us. Our mission at Resolute is to disciple and develop men to lead. So if you're looking for content for your men's group or even your men's ministry today, then you need to go to our website at beresolute.org. We have a number of great tools for men who are leading other men there, including a couple of brand new series that we know that your guys would love and the men who lead in your church would totally enjoy. Get a hold of it today at beresolute.org. And now let's dive in. Well, guys, today I'm joined again by my good friend Bill Derrick, who is president of Derrick Building Solutions. It's remarkable that this company began in his father's farm with just a simple remodeling contract one day. And now he has built this into a very successful, small, medium-sized business. I am excited to learn again from you, Bill. Bill, welcome again to the show.
Hey, great to be here, Vince. Thank you.
So, we have been talking about all kinds of topics here that relate to how you do business, how you do life, how you've grown over the years, lessons you've learned. Of course, today now we're looking at learning. I undoubtedly have learned that a leader has to be a continuous learner, and that is definitely a topic that I know is close to your heart. We don't know everything when we start. Am I right about that?
I would say we don't know everything when we finish either.
That's perfect. I think we know everything when we started, right? Mm-hmm. But there's a whole lot of lessons to learn in life. And sometimes God teaches us through hard, difficult, challenging lessons, right? But I know you have something at least generally to say to this topic because I know you're passionate about it. But leaders have to always be learning. Right?
Yes.
Describe to me in your business how you have seen your leadership try to continue. I mean, here you are. You're probably getting close to retirement, right? You're still learning.
Don't tell my partners.
I won't tell anybody that. That'll be our secret, okay. And the other 6,000 people that are hearing this. But you're probably getting to a place where you're thinking about passing the baton. I mean, we all are probably constantly thinking about that. If we are a learner. So describe for me what it looks like to be a leader with an impulse for continuous learning and continuous improvement.
I think it starts with having your eyes open and your ears open and being aware of what's going on around you and listening. And then from there, I do a tremendous amount of reading. I probably don't do as much reading as I'd really like to do, but and unfortunately, most of my reading has to do with things I want to learn about.
Okay.
It's fun to read a fiction book sometimes,
right,
and to get away. But for me, I get great joy in hearing about other people's experiences and learning from other people's experiences. Yeah. I get great joy in going to conferences and hearing from people who have done it. Not people who have studied it, but people who have done it and learned from their experiences. I think that my staff, my team, probably dreads it when I go to a conference because I come back and right away I'm trying to implement a couple of new ideas.
Yeah.
And of course, they're busy with all sorts of things. They don't need Bill coming in their office and say, hey, I think we should, Yeah. So I've learned that over the years as a learner, that I have to use that as a reference going forward. Yeah. But funny story, I went to a conference last week. And one of my takeaways was to go into the office of your direct reports once a week or every couple of weeks and just ask them, what are your priorities and how can I help? And I learned that last week, so I used that on Monday morning. And then I got a quick blurb, I think it was Harvard Business Review, their their management minute they send out every day, guess what they talked about in one of their blogs this week? Same thing. And I think that that's so true. There's those little things that you pick up that help you in dealing with your employees. I don't know how other leaders who do not stress learning, reading, going to conferences, networking with other successful people, I don't know how their businesses, how they expect their businesses to grow at the potential that they have.
Yeah, some people just live in their business and that's all they do, right?
Yes.
You've probably seen that they don't find ways to continuously improve, continuously learn. And there is something to that because that's one of the ways that God speaks to us, right? Like as believers, as you and I are, we're constantly looking for God's voice to us. And,
God's voice comes to us in many ways, but for me, especially the last few years, it comes through his scriptures.
Yes, absolutely. And we can dig into that truth and he just speaks to us. I mean, I was reading in Daniel this morning and God was speaking to me about courage. I mean, unthinkable. This young man had unthinkable courage. I mean, courage that I don't even know if I can muster in my life. And I got to tell you, it incites something in you. It's that place of continuously learning because I know, Bill, to make really quick spiritual application here, and then I want to get back to this, but my heart is wayward. Right? My heart is quickly wayward. It quickly moves towards the things that I want versus the things that God's want. God has truth in his word, and I'm aligning myself to it, not God aligning himself to my ways, the things that I want to do. And so we got to keep that kind of posture in everything that we do, right?
Yes.
So what I'm hearing, let me just reiterate some of the things you said because I think there's some great points in there. So there's a number of different ways that you're continuously learning. First, God's word. You said conferences, reading books, being open to maybe the occasional Harvard Business Review article that comes in your inbox, right, from Manager's Minute, and then finding ways to successfully implement those learnings into everyday life. And yet you would also say that if we're not learning, we're probably not functioning as a leader, right? For sure, I know that you would say that a leader is continuously learning, but why does a leader want to continuously learn?
Well, I think it's necessity. When I was a young man, probably out of college just a couple of years.
Okay.
The company I was with at that time sent me to another city in the southeastern part of the United States and showed up there on this job, and it was an older gentleman that actually had just come out of retirement and to do this project that I was assigned to do with him. And I remember him looking at me, and I said, yeah, I know, I'm young. I'm just going to tell you right up front, I don't know a lot about the things that we're going to do. You're going to have to teach me. He looked at me, he said, Bill, stay green, you'll grow.
I've
never forgotten that. I must have been 23 years old, maybe.
Yeah, and you're like 45 now.
Yeah,
so
at least that. But I think that kind of says it all. And I don't care whether you're 23 or 45, like I am now. Right. Or, we never know the time.
Right.
Or a couple of hours from our passing away.
Yeah.
I think God wants us to be continuously learning.
Yeah, well, just think of the thief on the cross. He learned something, right? As
absolutely.
He was hanging on the cross. Man, we have a lesson to learn while we're suffering severe.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, it is. And he learned something in that moment, and because of that, he got to enjoy paradise in the next breath, right? And I love that. Stay green. I like that. That is a very profound compliment to offer you, and a very profound way to say continuously learn. I think leaders need to be continuously learning for a number of reasons. One is we're not living in a static environment. Leadership is not a static environment.
No.
If you want a static environment, Go work on an assembly line.
Yeah, that would be a static.
That would be a static environment. Or go fold boxes at Domino's. That's a static environment. But I would say leaders are constantly working with a moving environment. Has your environment at Derrick Builders ever been the same?
No, it's it's constantly changing. Even in the construction industry, which I would say is an industry that people would tend to look at the construction industry and say, they're slow to implement new things, slow to implement technology. But even in the construction industry now, it's changing all the time. Technology is
Right.
taking over, and you're having to bring in new people to handle the growth that we're having now.
Right. New types of people, probably.
Oh, and new types of people. I wasn't going to use the millennial word.
Yeah,
but,
I know what you're thinking over there. Yeah,
but
people with different work patterns.
That's right.
But different levels of expertise too, right?
One thing we talk about at our company is that woe to us if we always think the Derrick way is the only way. We need to learn from others. And that's part of that learning process. I know all of us that are in management leadership positions in the company, we all have our own way of going out and learning from others, whether it's associations we belong to or other conferences and conventions, the publications that we look at, the networking we do with other people.
Yeah.
We can't operate in an island and
Yeah.
expect to succeed. You'll eventually go backwards.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that you're exactly right about that. And I think that it is really a challenge. A leader is just not operating from a static position at all. I mean, even though there are certain fundamentals to your business, for sure, right? There's certain fundamentals. Some of those fundamentals don't change. You still got to drive a nail into a wood, through a stud, into a joist, right? It's just how it works.
Yeah, it's not done with a hammer anymore.
Right, I know. What is a hammer, right? Like people, that's what.
Which end do you hold?
We're lazy. We have to use, exactly. Which end of that hammer do we use? And what does this forked end do, right? So, but it's just, there are certain fundamentals, right? And some of the fundamentals don't change. But with that, there's new ways to accomplish things, maybe faster ways to do it, maybe higher quality ways to do things. And it's like a leader has got an impulse for learning new ways to do things better, right? It's like Derrick built, but we're always doing it Derrick built better, right? That's kind of your way of doing things. So here's a proverb for you. Let the wise hear and increase in learning, and the one who understands obtain guidance, right? It's like a leader understands that if you're learning, you're gaining wisdom, right? And wisdom, and book learning is one thing. I know you got your master's degree in management, correct? And that's great, right? It was great to go to school, great to go to a very high-end school to get a big degree, fantastic. You've probably learned a lot of great things from that, but then you've learned a lot more by actually doing it, right? It's one thing to live in a petri dish and to come up with learning principles. It's another thing to apply them and to live in them and to learn them, right? So that's probably why you listen to leaders who are learning, correct?
Yes.
Because their message is credible to you. It's been tested. And then when you hear one of those tested messages, like go in and check with your employees, like we've already talked about, it's like, hey, I'm going to implement this. I learned something. I'm going to bring it to bear, and it's going to make me a better person, a better leader. And then maybe some of my employees will like me sometimes for being on the cutting edge and trying something new and welcoming them to do the same as well.
Yeah, and I think that it frees them up a little bit to know that their leader is trying to keep the company on the cutting edge.
Yeah.
That, not that they don't have a responsibility to learn themselves, which they do, but, they also know that, hey, Bill, as our leader, is also making sure that he's leading this company in a way that will help us be successful in the future.
That's great. So, guys, if you're listening out there today, I really hope that you keep your mind open today as you're leading for ways that you can improve things around you. and constantly learning. Like leadership is not a static environment. It's constantly changing. And you're going to have to adapt sometimes. So it means maybe you learn a new lesson that you can pass on to others. Bill, thank you for being with us again.
Yeah, my pleasure, Vince.
And that's a show. Thanks for listening. As we close, I want to remind you that we have great content for your men's groups, excellent small group videos and participant handbooks that will empower the men of your church to lead and maybe equip them to build the men around them. Check it all out at beresolute.org. And guys, as always, I hope you enjoyed this podcast today, but please know that the time that we spent together is worthless unless you choose to act on it. So do something today, like right now, like as soon as you're done with this podcast, by getting off the bench and into the game. And I'll see you right back here next time for another edition of the Resolute Leadership Podcast.